called the SAP SQL 2.0. Okay, so that was initially was basically the tool. And you know that basically it got developed into the SQL because the language what we'll use is basically the SQL language. Okay, and after that, so like in the consecutive periods, say like in 1996 or so, the company have come up with the business object version 3.0. So the initial version was basically BO 3.0. So if you see it, so it was basically started with the business object version 3.0. Okay, and it was the same year when BO first actually been acquired by the French software company, and it got listed with the NASDAQ. So that was basically a very important feature, because as you know that for any software which has been okay, you can actually put yourself on mute, and if you have any question you can put in the chat box, or say unmute yourself and you can we can talk about. So please I mean mute yourself, so that the avoidance of the background sound.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Okay, so thing is that so that is a actually, so that's what I was discussing. So an enlistment in the NASDAQ was a very important kind of achievement, because thing is that what is like SAP and any other companies who are basically working in the IT industry, it was very important that you have to be enlisted with the NASDAQ, which is basically the authorized it is basically in the IT world, this is authorized organizations under which the enlistment of the listed softwares who are basically have got the can work with their own license. Okay, so that is the reason it is important. So in 1997 basically what happened, that the introductions of the WABI. So I think you are aware of the this terminology, because business right now is quite familiar in the market. And thing is that there is something called a component called, and it has got a lot of subcomponents inside of it. Okay, so what happened, that WABI, which is basically a web-based reporting infrastructure. So, and this is a thin client. So what happened, which basically it got introduces in 1997. So what happened, the importance of the WABI, which is also at this point of time in the current market, what happened that most of the clients also they prefer the WABI reports, because thing is that that is web-based reports. So it is basically, obviously you can access it from anywhere. And also it has got the flexibility of creating customized reports as per the end users. Okay, so that is basically the concept of the WABI been introduced in the 1997. Okay, so that was also an important milestone. And eventually in 2001, so SAP signed on basically the an agreement to handle the crystal reports and acquired the Blue Wave software. So what happened before before 2001, there is no scenario of SAP tool or SAP Business Object. Now it calls SAP BOBI, as I just mentioned. But thing is that before, basically it was running as an independent company. Okay, acquired by the French companies and sometimes some other Blue Wave softwares like that. But thing is that from the 2001 onwards, SAP actually started establishing the agreement. Okay, in order to handle their subcomponents or to acquire their subcomponents. Okay, so like crystal decisions, or say like business object releases like dashboard and the BO enterprise and BO performance managers, all these things got acquired in around say like 2001 to 2003. Okay, and in 2004 what happened, it debuts new combined company with say like because they were emphasizing, SAP was emphasizing on the crystal report. So crystal is basically, by name you understand that basically crystal means very clear, isn't it? So thing is that in around say like in around 2004, what happened, that the launching of the crystal reports of the versions, it started enhancing and with a lot of other features. And in 2005, the introduction of the BO XI, which is basically the enterprise versions, so it also got released. And eventually in 2008, what happened? SAP absorbs the full business object, suite. Okay, so earlier to that, basically it was started actually continuing and acquiring its subcomponents. But 2008 onwards, what happened? SAP actually acquired the whole business objects. Okay, and then basically the release of 2008 plus, rather I should say that the versions of BO 4.0 and eventually 4.1. And later on, right now it is 4.2 support pack 5 right now. So right now the latest version is basically BO 4.2 and support pack 5. But thing is that for our system, you check your system as well. I think the BO which we are going to use it in support pack 2 most probably. So you check yourself as well that which training environment you have been provided to. That also just check it from your side. Okay. Now thing is that since you are not from the SAP background, so I would like to talk about something about that where actually this BOBI fallen. And thing is that actually from where I have mentioned to you that this business object is basically right now it calls SAP BOBI, as I just mentioned, from the SAP terminology. Earlier it used to be called as SAP Business Object, but right now it is SAP BOBI, which is basically business object and business information. Okay, so BOBI stands for business object, business information. Now thing is that since you are from the data warehousing background, now thing is that please note that even in SAP also we have got data warehouse. Okay, and in SAP's terminology, this data warehouse called SAP BW. Have you heard of it? SAP BW? In the chat you can mention yes, no, or yes, whatever.
Yeah, I do.
You have heard about it. Okay, so SAP BW is basically, earlier it used to called business warehouse, then it used to call business information. Like right now it calls business information, and it is basically from the SAP's perspective the data warehousing tool. Okay, and it is basically provides the end-to-end data warehousing. So it is basically an end-to-end data warehouse. Okay, so why I'm saying that it is end-to-end data warehouse, the reason being that this is a complete solution where basically you can develop and incorporate your business logic along with your data. So data warehousing, what we do, because we deal with the data, we cleanse the data, and after that what we do that we actually incorporate some business logic, right? I mean that also you do in your data warehousing basically, and then you prepare it for the reporting purpose, right? That once you have got information or your data along with your business logic ready, on top of that what you do, you start reporting, right? So business warehouse SAP BW was actually the case where it is a complete data warehousing solutions from the SAP's perspective. Okay, so it is called SAP BOBI. The reason being that, so business object and business information, so these are the dependency. In the sense, if you don't have the information, you can't create any report, isn't it? So that is the reason BOBI has been coming together. Okay, now thing is that the moment you have got your reporting tool, that is basically the final layer, and in between you have got the data warehousing layer, okay, from where you are sourcing the data, right? Now thing is that, now obviously you would like to know basically that what is basically the source of data for the data warehousing, right? So thing is that, of course, I mean that is also an important factor. The reason being that you need to know it, that from where actually what is the source of the data for your business warehouse, and then only you can actually read the data, cleanse the data, or maybe you can check the data quality. So those are the important factors the moment you are dealing with a data. I think you have already done it in the data warehousing, and quite similar. The concept is absolutely the normal data warehousing concept. Only thing is that maybe the components are different. The approach is a bit of a different from the perspective. Have you heard about SAP ECC? Have you
Yeah,
ever heard this?
the version, right? The SCC version.
No, ECC version is fine, but what I'm saying is about terminology. SAP ECC. People used to talk about it like SAP ECC.
Yeah, I heard, but I
Okay,
don't know exactly what that.
okay, fine. So thing is that important. Okay, so this particular diagram is very important. Please concentrate on this. Thing is that I told you that what you have done is, so you have reporting, that is your last, okay, you have to understand, you have to get the data, that is the first objective, right? Otherwise, on what you will develop your report. So first objective is basically to develop, source the data. What is your data source? That is important. Now thing is that from the SAP perspective, what happened, that in general, operational data, okay, like on the operational data, what is operational data or the business data? It means that it's a day-to-day transactional data, okay. So obviously, for example, just think about a banking scenario. For example, banking industry, say for example, if you go to a bank, and as you know that a bank can have their branches across the world, first thing, and also at the same time it is also the place basically where within few seconds or within microseconds, what happens, it is actually there are transactions happening across the world, right? And there are several data related to the customer's transaction posted. So SAP, and that is called actually operational data management, operational data, okay? So which is basically nothing but operational data means, I'll just write it, or business data means it is a day-to-day transactional data, which is basically on daily basis. And thing is that OLTP, so I said that, so operational data or the business data gets handled or gets stored in SAP ECC, which is basically, ECC means enterprise core component, and this is the place, and that is also called OLTP system from the OLTP is actually it is not only related with the SAP, it is basically a common terminology, but OLTP means online transaction processing system, okay? Online transaction processing system. The reason being, it is talking transaction, it is basically handling with the, please remember, transaction data. That is, this particular terminology is very important, transaction data. Have you heard about it, transaction data? And master data, I think you have heard because you are from the data warehousing concept.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So in any data warehouse, actually, whether it is irrespective of SAP, non-SAP, there are certain kinds of data what we daily talk about. What is transaction data? What is master data? What is metadata? Right. So metadata is something, I think this is a complete data warehousing terminology where it is talking about data log data. Transaction data, as I just mentioned, that it is related to the operation data which gets posted on every minute, seconds, or microseconds, maybe. Okay. And then, as I said, or say like master data. Okay, this is also very important. And at the same time, there is something called OLAP. OLAP system. Have you heard about it before? You can mention yes, no, anything in the chat box as well. Not necessarily you have to unmute yourself. Right. How about OLAP terminology? Rajesh? Can you hear me? Is it clear right now?
Yeah, it's clear right now.
Okay, no, I was asking that have you heard about the terminology called OLAP?
OLAP? No.
OLAP? Yes. No. Okay.
No.
So OLAP means online analytical processing. Okay. OLTP, as I just mentioned, that it is basically OLTP means these two are absolutely very, very important concept. Okay. Please remember OLTP and OLAP, these two terminology. Okay. Because this is the very, very important terminology or the concept from the data warehousing perspective. If you understand it, you understand data warehousing, or you understand the, the method of processing of the data. So as I just mentioned, OLTP means online transaction processing system. System is SAP ERP UCC system, where basically the transaction data gets maintained over here. Similarly, OLAP means online analytical processing. Please remember. So online analytical processing, for that, what happened? A place or a SAP source system. So this is considered as SAP source system. Okay, source of the data, because people used to post their operational data over here. Okay, and this data you are moving to another system which is called the business warehouse, and this systems the way it works is basically the online analytical processing, which means it processes the data for analytics purpose or analysis purpose. Okay. Like the moment you are, how do you make a report? Why do you make a report? Of course you make a report because you want to analyze your data set, right? You want to understand that at the end of the day, from your data posting, whatever has been posted by your users, actually you would like to know that what is my understanding, or what is my basically revenue, or so some queries based on your data which has been posted by the users or the users, the business, what you say. So ultimately what you are doing is, at the reporting layer, what you are doing is basically you are analyzing the data. Now this data analysis is being done, right, in a separate layer which is called OLAP, online analytical processing, and that is basically SAP's business warehouse that I just mentioned, or you can say this is complete end-to-end data warehousing solution, because in this particular layer, okay, it is a completely a different system. Okay, and here what you are doing is that you are basically taking all the data, transferring all the data which is available into the source system. So how do you do the analysis? You transfer all the data from here to here, from your source system to your analytical system. Okay, and then from there what you do is basically you actually started doing your analysis. And for analysis, what you need, you have collected your data, and you also incorporate the business logic. Like you need to write some piece of code. Data is not enough. Okay, because for your analysis, you understand that even in Tableau also you need to write some piece of code, right? I mean, it is just not only the drag and dropping of objects, isn't it? Even for the other tools, whatever you have used. So you must have been noted that of course there are, what happened, that there are certain cases where you need to incorporate the business logic in your reporting tool. Isn't it? Have you done that? Incorporations of the business logic along with your reporting? You have done that, right? Right. So thing is that similarly over here in SAP BW, what you do, you gather the data from your source system, you transfer the data from your source system, and what you do is that you incorporate the business logic by writing some piece of code. So that is the place basically where you make data and business logic and you make it information. So that is called information. Okay. So information is nothing but information is basically once you incorporate the business logic along with your data, that is called information. And then it is ready for analysis, which you are doing over here. Right? Did you understand what I'm saying? So once your data is ready along with your business logic, then in this final layer, you are doing the analysis. Okay. Now, please remember from the data warehousing, SAP data warehousing perspective, the final layer is called reporting layer, or it is called very important front end. So this is basically front end in the sense like, you know, actually see SAP's architectures, what happened that, you know, this analysis will be done into the front end, like, you know, in the back end, and this whole thing, you know, the data and, you know, this, you know, collection of the data and then cleansing the data. Okay, because there could be some duplicate entries also in the source system maybe, and maybe there, because manual entries, so there could be some junk characters. Everything got cleaned over here. Everything got cleansed over here, and then duplication been truncated, and you know, so data is more aggregated. For example, you know, it is basically you can get it into the summation form. If same customer is having buying different products, so at the end of the day, the sum would be a good. So in that case, it is a consolidated information. So consolidation also done over here, consolidation or aggregation kind of stuff done over here. So this whole process actually happens, what we call is actually in the back end. So this is basically the back end. Okay, the source system and the BW, like source system like ECC and this BW is basically what happened that, you know, we call it the back end. Okay, this data and how it has been done, the cleansing and everything, that actually been done by the developer or the architect. So the end user does not have any access to this particular area. Okay, this is completely in the hand the developer, okay, or the architect, the BI architect. I mean, who is taking care of, you know, how the data will be coming, what data needs to be done. And what we do over here, we do something called modeling. Please remember, in SAP BW, we do modeling, okay? And the latest version of SAP BW is at this moment is very important, 7.5 on HANA. So have you heard about HANA terminology? HANA, I mean, it's very, very common at this moment, okay? So HANA is another concept. So thing is that from the data warehousing perspective, please understand what I said, the backend and the front end. There are two distinctions. One is front end and the back end. So back end comes first because you get your data, cleanse the data, you incorporate the business logic, you make ready data for analysis. That is the back end job. Okay, you have done the modeling lessons, like, you know, what information exactly looking for. So all this kind of, that is called modeling. Okay, and then this modeling is basically exposed to your business object layer for the final reportings, and that is called the front end. So here basically this one you are giving it to the end users. Okay, so So this and this layer you are not giving, but the final layer, which is a front end, that is got exposed to the end users. So there are sub tools which are basically can be used for, as I just mentioned, that by the end users themselves for creating the custom report as well. Okay, so that is important thing to remember. Okay, now also in this landscape, so if you have heard about something called SAP HANA, that is basically the latest solution for data warehousing as well as modeling. And this, the way this system works is actually OLTAP. Did you understand that? I said OLTAP, which means this is a system, or it is an integrated application layer along with the database layer altogether, which is serving my both purpose. Like, here I have a separate system OLTP. I have a separate system for analysis, which is OLAP. But SAP HANA is basically, the way it has been designed, considering the fact that these two features can be maintained into the one place. Okay, so this is an integrated solution. Okay, very, very important point. This is an integrated solution for the source of data. And this is basically an in-memory database. Please remember that, the in-memory database is very important. The reason being, everything, the whole database storage has been maintained into the in-memory, like in the RAM. So that is basically the difference between BW, normal SAP BW and SAP HANA database. Because please remember, SAP HANA is in-memory database. That is a specialty of it. Okay, in the memory you are maintaining the full database, the storage. That is very, very important point to remember. And it is OLTP system, because you don't have to maintain any transactional system and analytics systems separately. All the features, all the modeling, what is possible in the OLAP system can be done over here as well. Okay, so the modeling and data storage, which we do in OLTP, can be handled over here. So important point is that for the business object, SAP's base practice is basically, this is also a very important source of data as far as the business object layer is concerned. So for the reporting layer, from where basic business object can at the source of the data. So these are the SAP sources. Okay. Like, apart from the ERP, as you said that you also have worked for SAP SD also, right? So SD actually be maintained into the SAP ECC. Please remember. So it means that you have already worked into the ECC. You just said that you have actually configured and worked sometime for the SAP SD, right? Sales and distribution. So this sales and distribution is actually got maintained into the ECC. So you already have worked into the ECC already. Okay, maybe knowingly or unknowingly. Okay, so apart from SAP ECC, like CRM, SAP SRM, like CRM is like shopping cart management system or customer relationship management system, which are a separate way to configure. Because SAP, what they have done is that they have given the functional solutions. I mean, they have developed a different solution based on the the functional areas. Okay, like finance, as I just mentioned, and you have mentioned SD, such things like HR, anything you say. Okay, so they have actually had got standard solution across the functional areas, and that be maintained into this source systems. Okay, so these are the SAP source systems of the SAP business object in reporting. Okay, now in SAP BW also, but apart from it, so you can ask me a question which I expect from you, that is it the only source of reporting for source of data for SAP BO? So can't we have data from any other sources? Is it possible or not possible? So it is possible in the sense we can, as you have mentioned, that we can also use the non-SAP sources, okay, as a business object data source, right? So as well as you can actually maintain or databases like Oracle, SQL, or the flat files, that all those also the non-SAP sources of SAP Business Object, front end reporting. Okay, so this is the basically SAP's landscape. I emphasize the reason being basically that while you will be doing the hands-on, so most of the cases what happened will be having the will be using the SAP sources or SAP data. Okay, so that is the reason basically we have just talked about. But apart from that, obviously in case of the non-SAP sources also, we can it can act like the source systems for the business object. Okay, now this business warehouse is actually capable of functioning three things. I said earlier it is an end-to-end solution, right? Why I said end-to-end? Because it has the capability of modeling. Like modeling means, once you incorporate the business logic along with the data, that is called modeling. And do you know the full form of ETL? Do you know the full form ETL? It is again a business data warehousing concept, irrespective of SAP, non-SAP. So what do you have understanding that, maybe can you tell me what is the full form of ETL? Rajesh? Yeah, so it is extraction, transformation, and loading. So this is a full form of ETL. So for any data warehousing, this is the basic job: extraction, transformation, and loading. Yes, you are absolutely correct. So thing is that if for any data warehousing landscape, this is the basic job what been performed by the data warehouse. Like first, it extract the data, then can have erroneous data. Okay, so in that case, you can do the transformation. Okay, so that these are the three important work which has been done by any data warehousing system, right? So so that is actually a very important point. Okay, now things that in this business object layer, actually what are the things what we can actually perform, and what are the sub tools what are available tools. Now thing is that very important tool is basically universe, which is acting as a source of the data. So for example, you had got the data for analysis ready from the SAP BW, but thing is that in the universe, what you need to do is that you can access these sources, either BW or HANA, and then it converts into its own file type, so that business object can understand the file type or take the file type. Okay, so the universe, and then as I just mentioned that what are the source of the data. It could be flat files, it could be BEX queries, like from the BW, how the business objects understand that what is basically the my source from the BW. So it is something called BEX queries. In the sense, I told you that SAP BW is basically end-to-end data warehouse solution, which means it can do modeling, it can do perform the basic data warehousing the activity like extraction, transformation, and loading, because you are loading the data from the source system to the BW system, and then it is also capable of reporting. So you can ask me the question then, oh, so if it is, if you have got the SAP BW solution and you're saying that it is also reporting tool is within BW, it is available. So then why again you are using business object? You can develop your reporting over here itself. No need to for business object incorporation, right? Unnecessarily. Okay. So the reporting in SAP BW system, actually it is not that I should say that it is not that flexible, and it is obviously not that advanced in nature like business object. Business object has got a lot of flexibility and a lot of sophistication provided by the tool, which is not being achieved by the SAP BW BEX queries. So the reporting tool which is available in the BW layer is BEX, called BEX queries. Like you can write queries, you can make queries, okay, in BW layer, and then on top of that you can this is a query get executed and make a report, okay. So thing is that, as I just mentioned, but the look and feel is in the query, which is basically available into the BW. It is always in the Excel format. Please remember, BW can actually provide the reporting either in the chart format or always it is into the Excel format it provides. Okay. So that is the reason it is called BEX queries or BEX analyzer. You can say analyzer because, as I just mentioned, that is analysis of the data what we do in the reporting layer. So it is called either BEX queries or BEX analyzer, and that is the reason it is called end-to-end data warehousing solution. Okay, but the need of business object has come up in the market. The reason being, as I just mentioned, that that more sophistication, more advanced features, okay. I mean, those are not available into the because it has got a restricted nature in case of a BEX queries, as far as the BEX queries is concerned, okay. And this universe is basically nothing. That is actually this is a part of the business object group. It is basically nothing but it is a semantic layer. Universe is basically nothing but a semantic layer. It acts as a semantic layer on top of the database. Like, if your database is BW or HANA, and on top of that, universe acts like a semantic layer, okay. And so what is semantic layer? As I just mentioned, that whatever the data view or data model you get it, so universe is basically it actually converts it into its own semantic layer version, or maybe own semantic layer, not version, I should say, it is the format, own semantic layer format, and it acts as a prime source of it. So on my top, this is my front end. So this is my top layer actually, SAP BOBI. Okay. So this is actually my business object family. Okay, at any point of time, if you think that there is a conceptual problem or you don't understand, you let me know, okay? And stop me and you can ask me a question. So what are the objects or what are the tools which are basically available into the SAP BOBI family? Okay, so let us just see that a little bit. Okay, so in this family, while I'm talking about the business object family, so there is SAP BOBI reporting tools. As I told you, that there are multiple reporting tools available under that business object family. Okay, like as I just mentioned, that BOBI reports, then there are dashboards, then there is crystal reports, analysis for office. Okay, so so there are so these are the components. Okay, so let us see. The next is, for example, we have something called, this is very important, SAP BODS tool, which means that this is SAP Business Object Data Services. Okay. So these are actually what I am writing right now. Actually, these are the different service solutions or services provided by the SAP Business Object group or family. Okay. So there is one more as well, which is okay. So what are these? I said that business object is basically a vast family. Okay, we just only know the reporting tool, but thing is that it is not the case. We have come here to discuss about the reporting tool related to the business object family, but apart from that also, it also provides other solutions. What are these? One is BODS. Okay, so the full form object, very important, business object data services. This is a very important tool, you know, for migration of data from SAP as well as non-SAP source systems. Okay, and it works in a batch mode. Okay, like you can schedule the job. So the way we can do it is basically we can schedule a job, and thing is that you can from the SAP source system or non-SAP source system, and you can actually fetch the data from the source system to your respective data warehousing platform, where basically you can analyze the data. So business object data services is basically an essential tool in case of our SAP and non-SAP source systems in order to fetch the data, you know, in the batch mode. So SAP Business Object Data Services works in a different ways, and it has got inside of it, it has got different transformation techniques. Okay, and another services or solutions the BO provides is basically something called SAP Business Object Planning Information. Okay, this is a planning tool. Basically, it also works for business object works for it, which means basically that even in the SAP Business Object platform, you can actually analyze the planning data. So what is planning data? Like you right now have got your actual data, right? Like, you know, the transaction data, which is basically nothing but actual data, what the user has posted, what transaction has been happened. Okay, so you do in generally for the reporting, you analyze that. But thing is that based on this transaction data, what you do is that you also plan for your future. You also plan for your future market policy or the business policy, considering your actual data or current data. You can also do your planning eventually, because that is the way the company actually focused, right? The focus, the market assumption. So this is also, this is the tool basically which helps you for planning the your futuristic market approach, okay, based on your actual data. So obviously the moment you will see that what is your current sale, so based on that only, and what are the products, so based on that only what you do, you understand that which products are basically in demand, and accordingly you basically source them, or maybe you can plan them to be in the warehouse. So all this planning be maintained or deployed over here. But we are here to discuss only and to emphasize only on this reporting tools. okay, in our overall session. But apart from that also, as I just mentioned to you, that BO family actually provide not only the reporting tool facility or solution, it also provides the data transformation facility, as well as it also provides the planning solutions as well, okay, in their whole BOBI family. Okay, so very important point to be noted for this. Okay, now for reporting purpose, for this particular phase, you can ask that, what kind of file formats actually been accepted by the SAP BO. So that could be a question as well from your side. So thing is that if you just consider this particular pillar, and as I told you that basically that, for example, universe. Okay, so the file format for universe is either say like UDT, okay, or UNX. Okay, so these are the two types of file formats which been accepted by the say, for example, the under universe, what is the basically the, for the universe, what is my source again, right? Because universe belong to the SAP BO layer. So what is actually the source of the universe, the data source, that is either SAP HANA views or like SAP BW modeling. Okay, in HANA, whatever the data modeling you do, that is called information views. That is the SAP terminology. So if you are sourcing any data from HANA, you will call that information view. You will say HANA views. Okay, so for the universe, the source could be SAP or non-SAP databases. Okay, so that source actually got converted to either UDT or UNX file format, and then it is exposed and ready for your business object reporting. Because in this business object layer, this is it acts as a semantic layer where actually you have take it into a converted file format, and then only you can use it for the reporting purpose. So for the universe, you can actually use either SAP or non-SAP database. For your source of information. Okay, okay, so apart from this universe, there is also one more source of data that is called, that is also component of the business object group, that is called information design tool. Okay, so and the file format, accepted file format is basically .idt. Okay, so .idt is basically the file format. Okay, and this is also an acceptable file format which which is exposed to your business object layer, and then you can actually perform or create your reporting on top of that. Okay, so, and what is the source of your IDT? Again, it is either, as I told you, that's to this, either SAP or non-SAP, the source systems. And thing is that, so the purpose of it, what is the purpose of IDT is basically what happens, that if you just talk into one terminology, that communication from communication from the BOBI to BW and HANA. So like in these two systems in HANA, done by IDT integration. It is basically helping for this communication, like this overall communication. So communication from the BOBI to the BW HANA done by the ITB integration. That is basically its purpose. Okay. Now this is universe importance. So IDT understand that communication actually from the BO side of W HANA done by the IDT. This is works as a middle communication layer. But what about universe? So as I told you that it works as a semantic layer on top of my database, and also so a better decision. So for why the reason is a better decision making by the users. So these are the two different, two very important concepts, information design tool or universe. So you can ask me that, for reporting, for creation of the report, how can I source the data from the, my underlying source system? So these are the methods. You can use either of the methods. Okay. You can source it from the universe. You can source it from the IDT as well. So you have to convert your source system's modeling object into either IDT or UDT accepted file, okay, and then it is exposed for your business object reporting. Okay, so till this point, is it clear for you? Any question? Any question? No question so far. Is it clear so far? Okay, thank you. So let us go for another. So are you finding it interesting, or it is boring, or as a subject it is finding it interesting, or you find it it's not that and where actually the data warehouse stands for in between this BO and this BOBI and then SAP and maybe the data warehousing. So are you finding it interesting or challenging? Or it
Yeah,
is
yeah,
like same as well?
it's quite, no, it's quite interesting because, I was, much aware of BO, but, how the coordination between BW and the HANA that I was not aware, and thanks for this information and all.
Okay,
I,
no problem.
yeah.
Yes. So if there is any question, you can interrupt and ask me. Either put your question in the chat box, or maybe you can unmute yourself and ask me as well. Okay.
Sure, sure.
Okay. Now remember, yeah, please go ahead.
You can
You're
carry on.
asking?
Go ahead.
Oh,
No, that's
okay.
fine.
So in the next slide, let us just talk about something. Business object package. So this is a whole package, right? What we are discussing right now. Maybe we are just going to talk about the reporting tools, but as we have seen that actually in the business object family is more vast. Actually, it can provide a lot of other flexibilities in terms of the data integration from the source system is concerned and the planning is concerned. Now, in the BO package, the one which we are emphasizing, which is a reporting tool, what is actually happening is that it is basically divided into two parts. One is called server part, and the other one is okay. So as we know that, for anything and everything, like, we have got the, obviously you have to post some, what happens, like, we have, the moment we are basically discussing about particular landscape or a particular tool, of course it has got something to do with the server, and it also has got something to do with the client as well, right? So that is the reason what happened. We need to understand that, from the hardware perspective, that, what is basically the considerations of the bit. So the server part in generally we do have like 64-bit, because it always, the server is actually having a more information than, it interacts with a lot of interfaces. So in case of a 64-bit server part, what happened? It has got different components, and one very important component is called or say like CMC, which is basically called Central Okay, so which is called Central Management Console. Okay, now thing is that the Central Management Console is basically what happened. I'm talking about the server part. Okay, one second. So what happened in the server part, as it is mentioned, one very important component is called the central CMC. You will see that very often you will be using this particular terminology, CMC. Okay, so CMC is nothing but management console, which is the main admin console for the entire BO administrator. Please remember this particular point. It's very important point to be noted, because it acts as the main admin console for the entire BO administrator. So any and all administration kind of jobs is basically being controlled by the central management console system. Okay, very important point. Okay, so if you come to this client part, which is basically of a 32-bit, obviously. Now, as I just talking about something called BOBI, okay, and it is a client-based tool. Okay, so it is basically a client-based tool. Okay, and then the next one is basically we have already talked about a little bit, is universal tool. Okay, and which is a UDT. Okay, it falls under the client side, and IDT or say like as I just told you, that information. And you will use this terminology quite often actually, which is IDT, the short form. These are the client part tool actually. Okay, and this BOBI is basically a client-based tool, and as I just discussed earlier also, that it is based on the web services actually, and it's through the web browser. You can access by the using the web browser. Okay, and also there is something called CCM, that is again another server part, which is basically central configuration. So anything related to the configuration administration is actually to the server side. So it's a configuration manager tool for the purpose of the server management. By name you understand, and the dates that is basically been emphasized for server management, or maybe the desktop management kind of stuff. Okay, there is something called the client side also. You see, once you log in, this is very often it will come like BI Launchpad. It will on the pop-up will be coming as BI Launchpad, where you have to put your user ID and password. Okay, so this is really, again, the Launchpad is something what you understand, that you are launching that applications. By name you understand, and then basically you are providing your user ID and password. And this is actually been used by either by the developer or by the power user, because by launching the BI Launchpad, what you're doing is that you are actually launching the business object business objects. You are launching the business objects actually to work on. Okay, either creation of the reports that has been done by the developer, or there are in the BOBIs also, or maybe if you're creating a dashboard. So dashboard can be created by the developer, BO developer, or maybe sometimes by the end users, because you don't know that what are the customizations they are looking for. So if they are looking for a local customization, so what they do is that they do it on their own self. They do it by themselves itself. Okay, so in that case, what happened? like they launched the BI Launchpad and they actually launched the business object, logging into user ID, logging through this BI Launchpad by providing their user ID and password, and they start working on their dashboards, or maybe in the web reports or so. So customization can be possible by the end users also in those platforms like Webby and as I just mentioned in the dashboards. Okay. Now, another important thing is basically understand, very important. Crystal group, we call it as a group itself. Okay, like crystal report is basically what happened. SAP crystal report is basically famous. It's very famous for pixel clear reporting. Okay, so for example, there are for example, there are kind of jazzy reports, or there are kind of reports which are basically, as I just mentioned, that kind of reports which you need for really high pixels, for example. Okay, so for that, what happened is that you are basically going for crystal group, because it is actually the crystal report considered as a different group altogether. Okay, and that is because in generally what happened, all the clients or all the customers does not want the flexibility or the features. Yeah, so as I was discussing, I think there is an audio disturbance. So as I repeating that the crystal report was basically very rich in their pixel format. Okay, now why I'm saying that all the clients or all the customers may not actually need the crystal reporting. Only the customers are basically looking for the rich, pixels or the reporting which will be very sophisticated in terms of look and feel with the colors and designs. In that case, they will go for the crystal reports. By name, you understand the look and feel is very tough. Okay, so this is important. So there is another group which is also present in our, this SAP B. It is SAP Dashboard 4.2. Okay, so this dashboard, as you understand, is capable of dash reporting. So for example, at any point of time, based on your underlying objects, if you like drop things and just like to see what is the look and feel, that is for dashboard, like either in the chart format or maybe in the pie chart format or in the graphical representations, anything. Okay, or maybe in the tabular form also. So this dashboard actually is basically important for that. Okay, so we also have the flexibility of having dashboard, and dashboard is a different group, crystal is a different group altogether, and other tools belong, as I just mentioned, Webby, Universe, and like IDT, information design tool, BI Launchpad belong to the client side. And in the server side, as I just mentioned, that CMC, which is Central Management Console, and the CCM, which is a Central Configuration Manager tool, basically being falls into the server side. So that is basically the overall segregation of the BO and community, or in the BO reporting tool sector. Okay. So also, I'd just like to know that have you got your system access? You already have your system access, I suppose?
Yeah, I do.
You already have that. Okay. So have you tested that whether those business objects and everything been installed over there?
Yeah, it's installed.
Okay, so is it your system from your office, or is it something that you are accessing something, a training server?
Currently, yeah,
Yeah,
currently currently in training server.
You are in the training server, right?
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Okay, so if you look at over here, and if you see on the start and programs, you can see that, you know, one second. Okay, so you can see that, you know, we have got like administration control, we have got something like central management console, and we have got like dashboards, and like, you know, there are different other types of plugins also there. Crystal reports, as I just mentioned, reports for enterprise version is there, and reports 2016 is also there. Okay, and at the same time, by separately, we also have got the shortcuts like, you know, web intelligence, and this is a rich client, as I just mentioned, and also we have got sorry, we also have got the, you know, administration console, IDT universe we do have, right? So, and we also have the crystal report. So these are some shortcuts already been created. And for accessing, so you can see that if, I mean, for if you actually try to log into the information design tool, so basically what you can do is that basically you can access the universe, you can create a local project, or you know, for creation of your or accessing your underlying objects. So there are two types of connection being maintained over here. One is called relational connections. We are going to see that once we going to use IDT in our next classes. So thing is that there are two types of connections being used for in order to for information design tool, in order to establish connections to your underlying data sources, which are relational connection and OLAP connection. Okay, so depending on the source system, basically you need to choose it. Okay, so and then there are options to convert to the universe. So, and you can see the recent local sources what you have used already. Okay, so there are certain functionality is actually available, so which you can actually use it over here. So this is just a look and feel, and in the maybe, as I just mentioned to you. Okay, so on the left hand side, basically you have got the options, and you can see that what are the type of data sources or source of the data you can avail it for the VB report creation. Okay, and it is a web-based solution.
And you see,
Yes.
the presentation is hanged.
Or is it so?
Yeah.
Once again. So are you able to see my screen right now?
Yeah, I can see your screen, but it's hanged already.
Okay, so can you see my screen like web intelligence? Is it coming right now?
No,
Web intelligence right now.
no, I'm not able to.
Not able to see. You can hear my voice, but screen is
Yeah,
not able to see it.
right now it's going to.
Coming? Is it coming?
Mm,
Shall we wait?
yeah, wait.
Okay, sure.
Mm,
Okay, let me refresh the screen once again.
sure.
Yeah, so I have refreshed it, so just confirm me once you get it. Because I'm accessing again from my system to another remote server, so maybe that is the reason basically you are, it is getting delayed with a remote call. So let me know once it is available for you. So at this moment, I am into the Wavy client, and I was about to show you the data sources to create the Wavy document. So has it come or is it still taking time?
Yeah, it's came now.
It has come. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so so from here, so you understand. Just remember my my drawing. What we have actually just now drawn, and please compare it along with the screen what we are seeing right now, and you can see this that on the left side, because right now we have talked about SAP and non-SAP sources of of the front end tool, right? Because right now we are into the front end tool, which is baby, because we are accessing the front end layer, which is a reporting layer at this moment. And on the left hand side, basically it is telling you that what are the source of the data you can actually avail from baby client, and you can build report on top of it. So you can actually use universe, which is again, as I just repeat, the semantic layer, and this layer is present in the BO family itself. Okay, so anything like .udt, which any view, information view from HANA, or any model from BW, or any kind of other sources which you convert it to the universe, you can access it from here, or as a flat file source system, Excel, any documents what is actually available in the Excel format, you can basically access it from here. And remember Bex, I just told you Bex query, which is nothing but SAP BW source, because from the SAP BW, after you modeling, basically what happened, you have to have your data set ready, which can be exposed to the business object layer. So the format in which you can access the BW data source is Bex query. So Bex option is showing you on the left. And I told you also regarding the individual SAP HANA views. So you can see that it is SAP HANA view as a data source, that also has been mentioned also here. So whatever we have drawn in the paint, it is actually matching with the the look and feel of your baby client, what we are seeing in the system. Okay, next is something like SAP HANA Online. So for example, as you understand that at this moment we have something called live data in SAP HANA Online. So for example, there are cloud-based solutions where basically you can get all the views are basically up to date along with its data set. Because remember one thing, the moment the features of SAP HANA, there are 3 features for which SAP HANA is exclusive, and it is different from all other databases solution. First thing, as I just mentioned, it is an in-memory solution. Any other database like Oracle or Tableau, or say like talk about BW. Okay, so those are not Sybase, anything. These are not been an in-memory database solution. It is exclusive for SAP HANA, which is an in-memory database solution. First point. Second point is that SAP HANA is basically a real-time solution. Please remember, very, very important point, and that you can relate with this particular option, which is online live data, which means anything and or everything which is getting posted right now, everything is available in SAP HANA Online. You don't have to wait for any kind of data replications or data management updation. The reason, that is the reason basically people go for as the underlying database on top of business object, as source is as SAP HANA. The reason being, it is real-time data source. Please remember, that is also one of the major features to learn SAP HANA. Okay, because it has got the functionality of transforming, okay, transforming your real-time transaction data to your analytical data, system. So because it is an OLTP system, as I just mentioned, so any transaction data which is getting updated, so it is immediately getting updated into the SAP HANA system, and you can actually build a analytical report on top of it then and there. Okay, and another very important point, this is for your knowledge. Okay, that why SAP HANA is very considerable as a overall lifetime solutions for the client. The reason being that it's because of its features. One is in memory, one is it is absolutely real time, and third one is basically it has got the features of massive parallel processing. Like the data which gets processed is not in the sequential manner, because in the traditional SAP systems, like you already have worked in the SAP SD. So what happened? The way the data gets processed in the SAP SD or in SAP source system, like OLTP system, actually it is basically a sequential processing. Like one posting has happened, it got up to date, and then the second posting is again up to date. So it is sequentially happening. But in case of SAP HANA, what happens that parallelly multiple tasks used to go on at any point of time by the central processing unit or the CPU. So that is the reason it is very fast in nature. Okay, so if somebody is actually using SAP HANA as a its underlying database, so the reason is basically that it has got the exclusive features which is not available in the other data warehouse or database. Okay, now real time, in memory, and massive parallel processing are not the features of any other databases. Okay, and SAP's best practice, if you, because obviously SAP, the moment you are purchasing an SAP solution, please remember SAP always has got some recommendation, and they, if you go to their website, you can see they always talk about the best practices, what you should follow at the time you're if you are, say, like, for example, if you're an implementation project, you are doing an implementations, or maybe you are in a support project. So if you are in an implementation project, you are in a more favorable condition because you are doing it from the scratch. So always follow the best practice. Okay, so they have got the recommendation for the best practice as use business object, business information reporting tool, and on top of SAP HANA. So that is basically the kind of a landscape that is in the best practice. But if you are using SAP HANA, please use SAP Business Objects as a reporting tool, because both of them as a database and a reporting tool, it's a absolutely, it is a option. Also, what you can use, which is very flexible, and as I just mentioned, you can use web services as well as a data source. Okay. And some connection like can be done by the SQL, it can be done so that use it as a data source in case of baby reports. Okay. So this can be the baby and the most popular tool as far as the normal clients are concerned. Because if a client has got inclusive reporting requirement as far as the look and feel is concerned, that rather than jazzy look, or say like it should be yeah, so I think the connection to the remote server has been lost. So again, we have to log in. So as I was just discussing that if you have got a particular requirement of a very rich, try to log in. Let me see. So actually, there is a page has expired. Let me see. So as we just talked about, the central management console is basically a web-based service, and it is on the server part, and it is basically the major administration area for controlling or managing all the server related or administration related activity. So what basically today what we are trying to do is that basically what we are just trying to have a look and feel of the objects or say like the tools what we are going to use next time onwards. So that is basically the objective. So you also try it from your side. I mean, in the sense like, that whether everything is, all the instances are working properly or not. Just try to log in and then try to see that, everything is working properly or not. So tomorrow probably we'll be starting with the Webi. That is my plan so far, and that is actually the plan which has been shared with with your organization as well. I suppose maybe I'll just try to email you the study plan what we shared with your organization. Okay, so if you look over here, this is basically the central management console home, and here you understand from that there are basically different options are available over here, that how the universe connections are, like the connections with other connections and been maintained over here, and whether the different repositories or the personal folders can be maintained, and what are basically the administrator job, like instance managers, or managing different applications, or if there is any license keys information or version management, and administrator cockpit or monitoring of the database activity. Okay, and system configuration management. So these are basically and then maintaining the OLAP connections maybe at any one point of time. So these are basically the as I said, that different options available in the central management console. Which is the as I mentioned that page of over here, and just for example, as you say that group creations is possible over here. Like if you would like to have separate groups which will basically will be using the particular state of information, maybe that is possible, and the scheduling of job and the calendar management, what we see here as well on the top. Yeah, and you can trigger events or applications. That is also possible over here in the CMC. Okay. So this is just a look and feel of the main administration console for BOBI. Okay. So since you already have got the data warehouse, so I'm not going into the details of it, because you already are familiar with it. The ETL, that is the main objective of it. So thing is that I will ask you that to emphasize on the concept of as we have just discussed, that that's OLTP and OLAP. So that is basically a very important tool, okay, which basically you need to remember, okay, because that is actually work and start the work in the SAP area. Okay, so the moment you are actually going to work with this area, so obviously the expectation is that you should be familiar with this terminology, first thing, and second thing is that it is also expected that you basically should be having the idea, and should actually be explained, and you can actually will be able to explain to the others as far as the this particular the OLTP and OLAP concept is concerned. Okay, so for example, I'll just what we have discussed about the OLTP and OLAP. I'll just make a important points so that you can actually remember and basically understand and relate that whatever we have discussed, we are just jotting it down over here in a single window. So as I told you, OLTP is the operational process, which is basically talking about the transaction data on the day-to-day basis. And this is basically will help you. This OLAP is basically to help you for the decision-making process, and because you're analyzing some data, okay, and then also it is always the correct information, because it is basically dealing with the transaction data. By name, you understand that it is basically deal with the transaction data. and this is mostly with the historical data. Okay. Okay, so I'm back. I think so can you see my screen? Okay, so we are talking about the OLTP and OLAP differences. So OLTP is always a detailed level of information because it is a transaction data and it actually captures the data in the line itself. Whereas in the OLAP is basically this is the aggregated data, like it is taking from the OLTP system, you're transferring to the OLAP system for the analysis purpose. Obviously, you need the summarized form of data, so it is always summarized in nature. So that is very important point to remember because otherwise, OLAPs, you can directly do the reporting in the OLTP. And that is also possible because in the OLTP, like in the SAP ECC, there are some standard SAP reports which you can generate, but is that definitely it is the quality of the reports is absolutely not, I mean, it is very kind of an operational report that it is not as per expectation. Okay, that is the reason basically the concept of analytic process and then another server for the analysis purpose has come into the picture, and separate reporting tool is needed because if OLTP would have been served and suffixes enough for the reporting purpose, we wouldn't have go for any other kind of approach or application servers. The reason is basically the reporting is absolutely not good. I mean, very, very basic reporting is available in the OLTP system. So that is the reason, and all this is summarized format, and the look and feel is not available with the, different features. Okay, so there is one more point is that fast capturing of data from businesses end. Yes, obviously, because thing is that this is the place where basically that every moment what is happening, that it is capturing the data in actually has got a less volume of, it takes less volume, this one is basically takes less volume of space. I mean, the space which it takes is basically less for storing the data, whereas OLAP, as you know, that it is a detailed level of information, as I just mentioned, and it is basically aggregated data summaries and fast capturing of the data from business need. And this is basically responsible for fast querying. Query on top of the data set along with the business logic. So fast querying, and then we can build a report and give you the interactive, kind of form or data in a fast manner. And as you said that this is a less volume of space, and here you require large volume of space for read operations. What you do is basically you read operations, and what you mainly OLTP is important for the write operations. This is the most important point. Okay, this is the write operations. I mean, this write operation basically the point is basically very important. The reason being that this write operation is basically the actual work which is done by any OLTP system. So this write operations is basically the one which is any system. So this is basically on the top, the write operation. This is famous for the write operations mainly, and this is used for the read operation. Whatever data you are migrating or taking to the OLAP systems, basically it is reading the data and it is generating some query based on your submission, and it is giving you some output. That is OLAP systems. So it is basically used for the use of the OLAP system for the read operations, and OLTP, as you understand that it is mainly used for the write operations. Okay, so this is a very, very important difference between these two systems, and this is basically a very concept in the data warehousing, and even from the SAP perspective, that what we are using this servers in our landscape. Okay, so the voice is still not clear.
No, it's still not clear. It's breaking completely. I didn't understand what you said.
Okay, so maybe I'll just repeat it.
Sorry?
Okay. Yeah, I'm just repeating what I just, I have informed right now. So I say that OLTP main important is basically that the OLTP we use for the write operations, whereas OLAP we use for the read operations. So in the OLTP, you understand from the write operations because it is always writing the updations of the data in the system. So this is mainly used for the write operations. This is the main difference, that OLTP used for write operations. If somebody will tell you to tell the difference, so you should tell it first. OLTP system used for the write operation, and read operation OLAP is actually used for OLAP system for the read. The reading, the reason being that the data set what you have actually transferred to the OLAP system. What you are doing is that you are reading the the data in order to generate some query, or in order to generate some answer or some report. Okay, so that is the reason basically OLAP is basically okay. So OLAP is basically for the read operations and OLTP is for the write operations. Okay, so that is the first point to be remembered, and there are points also which I have mentioned. Please note it. You there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. And the screen is also visible, right? Okay, so let's just discuss another terminology, which is called data mart. That is also a data warehousing terminology. Have you heard about data mart,
Data
Rajesh?
mart. Yeah, data mart,
Yes.
right? No.
No. So this is also, data warehouse. Okay. Now, what is data mart? So of course, by name we understand this is talking about the data. Yes, data mart. Now, thing is that in case of SAP uh, area, what happened that what is data mart means? Data mart means data marts are actually subject oriented data. But you actually understand that. You know it already. How do you know it? In the sense, data mart, I said that it is a subject oriented data. So, which means that you have already seen that in SAP, we have got different functions areas like SD, we have got finance, we have got the, something like, material management, for example, MM. We have different areas, right? So each and every area, the configuration, the end-to-end configuration, and how it works. Okay, so everything is really being captured as a model. Similarly, if you talk about the finance model in SAP, so it is actually talking about the way it has been designed, the standard solution has been provided by SAP, the end to end, that how the data is getting captured, how the configuration and the finance is done, what are the different sectors in the finance which needs to be considered while a company is working with the finance, and what is ultimate reportings which maybe a company will look for. So everything and anything will actually, what is happening is that being captured, okay, in this particular individual models, okay. And same as with the material management, that how it actually works, from the end to end. So that is been captured. So each are different verticals. Happen like, and it has got its detailed level of information. Okay, so this is called data mart, which is basically our subject oriented data, and the modeling in SAP has been maintained, done in such a manner that everything and anything been captured into model wise or every vertical wise. Like SD data or SD configurations won't mix up with FI. It is an individual vertical, whereas FI is an individual vertical with an end-to-end solution. And similarly with the MM data mart. Okay. So that was very important points to be noted. Okay. Now thing is that okay. Okay. Before going to that, now we are going to discuss about the architecture of SAP Business Object. Okay. So because we have discussed about that, what is the tool, what are the family models, and in the data warehousing, SAP data warehousing concept, where it is falling, and why it is recommended, along with the SAP in which area basically it is fitting into. So we have seen all these things. Now, think is that here basically, as I just mentioned, that we are actually in the newer version, which is 4.2 and support pack 5. So in support pack 5 is basically what happened. We have got this different new elements earlier, which was not present. Okay. So there are certain points which has been mentioned over here. Maybe I will email this to this document to you. So this is as a gist to show you that what are the important features which got incorporated in SAP BO 4.2. Because what happened, the moment in SAP, what happened, the approach is something that, and something called support pack. You will always listen support pack, which support pack you are into. If you just, for example, look into this, our console, this particular remote desktop, I think we are out. So, okay. So if I log into this, and you can see that, that we are, and I'll ask what, which support pack you are needing. Okay, I have told you that. So that, which means that, SAP has developed tool, and they have come up with the versions, revisions like 3.0, 4.0, 4.1, eventually 4.2. Okay, and there are major changes. There are some major, why the version management is important. The reason of the version management is that obviously, I mean, you are coming up with some incorporation of the new features, and that is the reason basically the version control is a picture. I understand. Now, the thing is that understanding is basically that this support that because it is a tool, and SAP always work on the enhancement of the tools based on the client's feedback, because there are some sole clients which are SAP registered clients are only using SAP product in their landscape or in business in the company. They are not using